If you're a California landlord, 2025 could be a very tough year for you. That's right, the California Legislature is back at it, proposing these laws that are hurtful to economic prosperity for owners and tenants and just add undue regulatory burden. I'm gonna break down these 5 rental housing killers in this video. I'm gonna break down all 5 bills, but 2 of these bills in particular are really bad, and I'm gonna tell you why. They go by the name of SB 436 and SB 262. SB 436 could allow tenants who have been evicted to pay rent to stop the eviction all the way up till sheriff lockout. Now you might be asking yourself, well, Steve, what's wrong with that? Well, it's a problem for a few reasons. Number 1, it would incentivize bad tenants to just game the system. So evictions can take anywhere from 4 to 8 months right now. And so imagine not getting any income for your rental property for 7, 8 months. And then the day they go to lock out the tenant, they have a check and they say, oh, you must accept this. And now it starts the clock over. Then the next month they don't pay. And then you got to go back to court for 8 months. It could actually just string out these evictions and make it much, much worse. So essentially it would force landlords to absorb legal fees, not be able to pay their mortgage on time, not be able to enforce a contract that they have with their tenant that says they'll pay by the 1st of each month. And again, it's just another bad tenant laws. We live in a bad tenant paradise over in California. Good tenants don't need these laws. Good tenants pay the rent, or if they're under eviction, they'll work out a cash for keys program, or it'll go through the courts and then they move on. These loopholes just add complexity to our rental market and are unnecessary and actually threats to our rental market. So what you need to know is how to structure your lease and rental policies to not pick bad tenants, to enforce your rent payments properly, and to avoid evictions to begin with. Having a good relationship with an eviction attorney is really important. You can have legal strategies that can help you prepare for situations like this. All right, the next one is AB 246, which would freeze rents in LA County after the wildfires indefinitely. So what this bill proposes is that it would bar any rent increases after January 2025 levels in LA County indefinitely due to the wildfires. And there would be fines of up to $10,000 if you violate this freeze. So why is this a problem? Number 1, why are landlords singled out and have to keep prices at 2025 levels, January 2025 levels? Why not grocery stores or other, businesses? There are already these price gouging laws on the books. And these price gouging laws say you can't raise rent more than 10%. Yeah, there's like a cap, and we need these protections. We need to protect these victims of wildfires and other victims around the country of other natural disasters. However, to freeze rents with no end date unduly burdens landlords. It creates an unfair system where landlords get punished, but other businesses don't have to, comply with, let's say, price freezes. It gives the government too much control, and it's just overall bad for the housing market because it's just another thing where landlords say, it could be 2 years, let's say, 3 years, who knows how long they'll keep this control. And then landlords can't raise rent with rising costs, and then they just decide to stop being landlords. Again, it's a free market economy theory. The more restrictive you make a market, the less people want to play in it, the higher prices go for everyone. It's just a story as old as time. SB 522 is the next one, and it would expand rent control to disaster rebuilt properties, specifically in LA County. So this is kind of a weird one, but basically under Costa-Hawkins, the bill that we voted to not overturn in the last election, it prevents rent control to be passed on single family homes and condos or properties built after 1995. That was put into place to incentivize developers to continue building so you wouldn't have rent control on new properties. This would exclude disaster rebuilt properties. Some say it's a problem because it would discourage people from rebuilding if they can't raise the rent to a certain amount. I don't know what kind of impact that would have. I'm generally not a favor of additional legislation like this. I think there's bigger problems that we can face as a legislature. We have opportunity cost to only do so many things. Other opponents of this bill say that it could force people to sell their rental property because they'd be under rent control and it wouldn't, incentivize them to rebuild it. But I don't know. I think this is kind of a niche case that doesn't affect a lot of people, but it's there. All right, the next one is SB 381, which would restrict certain fees on lease agreements. So it would do a couple things. It would cap late fees, and it would prohibit certain fees that are commonly charged in the landlord community. Also, it would limit your ability to charge parking charges, like an extra fee for a parking space. So what are the fees that it would prohibit or limit? Number 1, pet fees. Number 2, the parking fees we talked about. Number 3 would be rent check processing fee. Sometimes people charge like a processing fee to run a paper check. It would also place some limits on tenant screening fees, which there already are limits, so I'm a little confused about that. Maybe new limits. And it would cap late fees at 2% of the rent, and you couldn't charge a late fee until rent is at least 7 days overdue. This is a problem because are the people that are creating these bills actual rental property owners? No. They don't understand our business. They're setting these arbitrary limits on our business and just makes it a lot more difficult to operate in a very, very complex legal environment for just your average mom and pop owner who are trying to comply. You know, your Aunt Louise is just renting her property. She charges a 5% late fee, you know, and then she gets a threatening demand letter from a tenant that says you violated this potential new law. You know, it's just silly. And if you can't charge these fees, what's likely to happen is just a higher base rent, you know? Businesses find ways to charge what the market will bear. And so I don't like this bill. All right, the last one and possibly the worst one on here for our housing market would be SB 262. The state would incentivize local governments to pass rent control by giving them extra money when they do so. Oh, geez, Louise. So the quick and dirty on this one is local cities get money from the state for housing related programs. And how much money they get and when they get it and if they get it at all is really up for the state's approval. And so they have to like do certain things to get certain amounts of money. So what this law would do is it would add to the housing approval guidelines a benefit for local cities if they pass rent control or if they open up, let's say, a tenant defense fund. If they do any of these very like tenant protection, tenant friendly, which are really bad tenant friendly laws in local communities by giving them a higher chance of getting more money from the state. Basically a death sentence to our local communities because rent control doesn't work. It's been well documented and well studied. It's bad for tenants, it's bad for the housing stock, it's bad for landlords. So it will actually incentivize a poison pill essentially for all the communities throughout California. Hopefully they're smart enough not to take the bait and will stand on principle instead of getting more money in their pockets. So what can we do? If we oppose some or all of these bills, we need to let our local and state representatives know. Do a quick Google search on who is your state representative, who is your local representative. Give their office a call. They almost always pick up. You can just say a quick statement and then hang up. You can also send them an email. We'll try to put a link in the description below to help make this process easier for you, but it's really time for us to continue to make our voice heard and say we don't want these bad bills that are bad for our communities at large. As a landlord, navigating and understanding these legal changes are not just optional, they're crucial to protecting your investment. But laws aren't really the only thing you need to know as a landlord in California. You need to know the best practices and stay up to date on how to better manage your property, save more time, and make more money. And so I highly encourage you to watch my other video, My Lessons Learned from Managing Over 1,500 Rental Properties. Check it out. I share all my hard-earned insights and strategies I've learned over the 12, 13 years I've been in the business to hopefully save you some time and make you more money. Click here to watch now, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you.